So when I think of disillusions, I think of the many beliefs from my childhood that I have learned growing up are not true. Um, for example, as long as I could remember, adults were telling me, when you grow up, you can be whatever you want to be. I wanted to be a princess. Also, my parents gave me a little trinket box when I was little. It was heart-shaped, and on the lid it said, "You are special." And for years, I believed that. And then don't get me started on the parade of mythical nocturnal visitors to my home who I thought were bringing me toys and candy and money. But there's one childhood illusion that lasted way too long, longer than it should have. And I credit or blame my mom for this childhood illusion. My mom, always being one to try to shield and protect us 6 kids, thought that the word skeleton was too scary for children. And so she used and taught us to use the word bone man. And we grew up thinking that bone man was a word. And in case you don't know, bone man is not a word. My mom made it up. But she thought it was a friendly sounding word, like just your friendly neighborhood bone man. So anyway, we grew up year after year, October after October, our lives were full of bone men. There were the bone men in our neighbors' yards, there was the bone man hanging in our house. Apparently the word skeleton was scary, but not the actual presence of skeletons. My brothers and I would go trick-or-treating as bone men, which I assume, you know how adults will ask kids, what are you going as for Halloween, or at the door, what are you? And I'm sure we all said bone man, and nobody corrected us. And so this continued for far too long, I think because skeletons actually very rarely come up in conversation. So no one ever corrected us. And I'm sure by the time we reached our 20s, we had heard the word skeleton before, but we all thought it was just a variant of the word bone man. And yet, eventually, we were all disillusioned. My time came when I was a junior in college, an English major, and I was at a Halloween party trying to talk very loudly over the music, and I screamed at the host, "I love your bone man costume!" And the whole dorm room went silent. And my roommate started kind of giggling nervously and said, "What did you just say?" That was my moment of disillusion. My sister actually has a worse story. She was in vet school, a student in a lab, and asked the entire class if anyone knew where the dog bone man was because she needed it. Anyway, I recently looked up, did a Google search for bone man. I just had trouble believing that a word that was in my lexicon for decades cannot possibly be a word. And sure enough, it's not there. Merriam-Webster has not yet recognized bone man as a word. And I'm okay with that, because you better believe I am teaching my 2 boys to say bone man instead of skeleton. The other day, we were walking home from school, and we were talking about the 18-foot bone men that are in our neighborhood. And my son Leo, the kindergartner, my observant child, he turned to me and said, "You know, Mom, I've noticed that a lot of kids actually say skeleton instead of bone man." And I just looked at him and I was like, "Oh, that's weird and scary." He's only 6. That's far too young to be disillusioned.